Welcome to Psych Ward Crafts Time with Manic Matt. I am Manic Matt. And I'm going to get the show started like I usually do with a reading of a Bible verse and a prayer. Today's Bible verse is from Matthew chapter 11, verse 28. If you are tired from carrying heavy burdens, come to me and I will give you rest. Let's pray. Dear Lord, I just want to thank you for the opportunities that I have in my life. Thank you for the people and the things that I enjoy and my cats. And I just hope that you continue to bless me and give me everything that I need, not what I want. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, today I want to talk about The Matrix. The Matrix is one of my favorite movies ever. When The Matrix first came out in 1999, there was like movie previews for it that didn't give away like the plot of that it's like a simulation or nothing like that. It seemed to me like just from the previews, it was like some cool action movie. That's all we could figure from it. And when it came out, people would say, oh, "You have to see The Matrix." You know, like that Keanu Reeves movie with the what's it about? Like it's some action movie, some underground criminal organization or something. The Matrix. We don't know. It didn't show in the previews what like the full scale of what it was, which is probably a good idea. And then it just people were talking about it like you gotta see this movie. So yeah, when I finally saw it, I don't think I went to the theaters. I think I saw it after it came out. The whole reveal that Neo or whatever his real name was, John Smith or whatever it was living in a simulation, and he was being pursued by these people who thought he was the special one or whatever that they talk about, and they helped him awaken from the Matrix simulation. It was like, whoa, what? That's crazy. And you know, when the internet and computers were just kicking off and getting more and more developed in the last decade, the concept of that simulation theory was kind of like more like believable, I suppose, and like this could be the future. We could be building a simulation, or you know, robots could build a simulation that we could be plugged into. It seemed like it was realistic enough of an idea that could happen in the future, some dystopian, horrible future that we could build. But the Matrix is now it's Keanu Reeves all the way. Like they made the second and third one, which was strange the way they did it. They filmed both at the same time and released them in the same year over like spring and winter or something, or like whatever, fall. And the second one was pretty just all action, no not much of a reason for the story plot other than this is some awesome stuff to look at. They had like the upped budget, so they were able to, and they did a good job with whatever they had to work with the first film to be able to make what they made. And then they proved themselves as a good movie. And the second one got a bigger budget, so they upped it with really awesome fight scenes and car chase scenes and stuff like that. And they opened up the world to Zion, the last human world that's not people plugged into the Matrix and stuff like that. And then the third one was not as good with the action, I don't think, and it was more of a trying to like, I don't know, close up the story with philosophical type stuff. It just kind of left you unsatisfied. I think it wasn't as good of a story plot as you would expected, or you would hope that it would be. The first one, it's just like opened up the whole idea, and then second one was just mostly action. Third one was like, okay, this is a weird. Basically, it was an anomaly of the reiterance of the one having to repeat itself and do the cycle of destroying Zion and restarting it with all that stuff. That's what they were told, as the computers said that's what they were doing, but you don't know if they're telling the truth or not. But I don't see why they wouldn't. And then this version, the Agent Smith had become like a virus glitch that would be a threat to the whole system, because it was going to clone itself to every robot in the whole Matrix. And it had no motivation other than to just destroy and dominate everything. And basically, the Agent Smith became everything in the every computer program and every person's, and it had some kind of weird, like, he was able to infiltrate into a real human through the Matrix where it was plugged in, and it went through by taking over that guy that was plugged in from one of the ships of the people who were unplugged but plugged back in to go do like missions and stuff, and then took over that guy like he was possessed by the Agent Smith or something. And then there was, like, they kind of hinted at the possibility that Neo could connect to the Matrix without being plugged into it. They didn't really like explain any of that or like, you know, explore that too much. It was more like, ooh, isn't that cool? We don't know exactly why or if there's a point to any of this, but isn't that interesting? Look at that. And then part 4, oh, I don't even know what the heck that was. That was a whole weird cash grab thing. It's kind of disappointing. And it was cheesy. I heard they're making part 5, but how can they make a part 5 after the weirdness of part 4? Did people really like the part 4 of The Matrix? Seems so stupid to me. Super cheese balls. God. So the one thing that I don't like about them, you know, the first one was great. The second one was okay, and it just it's like an exponential drop down from the first one. Introduced an awesome idea and concept and story, and then just kind of fell off after that, as they do. One thing I don't like is how there's no expanded universe as much as other franchises have. There's no novels. There's like an Animatrix, maybe something like that, but it's mostly just the movies. There's no like franchise or like canon versions of any expanded universe of the Matrix, which I think is a huge flaw, and maybe there's some legal reasons or some reason why they're not doing that. I don't know why. The one film that would be an amazing thing to remake and reboot would be The Matrix. I mean, obviously, the whole concept is that he has been the 6th version of the one that has this ability to become a superhero within the Matrix world. The 6th one. So how about we do a different version? Maybe something different happens this time. And that one, the Agent Smith becomes a virus, and he falls in love with Trinity, and there's like this whole thing with that. And they said the other versions didn't have like a romantic love interest like he did, so things changed in his perspective and his decision making because of that. So maybe we could see different versions. And we could explore so many side stories and all the times in between of them searching for the one and all this stuff, and how they are trusting the Oracle, who is a computer programming, like part of the program, to give them hope somehow. And they think they could trust this Oracle person. But there is, in the Matrix 4, there was like a split of the factions of the robot world, where some would think that they must have complete, total control and enslavement of the humans, and the other ones thought that they should work together and be more symbiotic. So the whole concepts of what Matrix 4 introduced and the ideas, it made it more interesting. I would like to hear the stories that happened before whatever's happening now in this weird version of the Matrix, where he's still plugged in, somehow able to live longer than normal human can live. Like 70 years had passed. Doesn't make any sense. Not really. Then I wish they had novels and stuff. I guess the only thing is fan fiction. You can find fan fiction of the Matrix, and then there's the video games, and that I didn't really play, and the Animatrix. They may have some comic books that I'm not aware of. I'm not sure, but I wish they had more content. I feel like that's a good concept and franchise to make an expanded universe in novels. There's so much there, so much philosophy and stuff that we could talk about, or explore the stories of. Like when Morpheus had first got Neo out of the Matrix, and he said that usually they don't wait till they're this old because they've been in the Matrix so long. It's hard for the mind to accept the true reality. Well, it seemed like he just got upset stomach a little bit and got a little freaked out, and that was it. Big deal. That wasn't that bad for him. It seemed like he recovered pretty quickly. But maybe there's an example they could explore in some other novel about waking up somebody too old, and like how freaked out they totally had like a lost mental breakdown or something. I thought it would be cool what if they have like a little psych ward over in Zion, where people who they've woken up out of the Matrix and they just couldn't handle it, so they got to send them to this special hospital thing for them to cope. They got to be looked after because they can't go back into the Matrix. Not really. There's no way of doing that. So the only thing they could do is maybe they could plug them back into their version of a Matrix. Maybe that's what they do. Or do they just try to create an environment where they feel like they're in the normal world again, I don't know. I think there's so much there to explore in the ideas of it in novels, and probably be better than what they did in the movies, what they're doing in the movies. I don't see why they don't reboot it with a whole new, restart the whole concept over again. Maybe start earlier this time. Like they don't even have an idea of who the one is yet. They're just they're searching for the one. What is it about that guy that stood out? Just because he was a computer hacker or something? He was good with computers, and he hated having to go to work and live a normal life. Is that it? Is that all he looked at? There's got to be some other things. I like The Matrix. The first one for sure was amazing. Let's do some maze art for a little bit. Look who it is. Hi. She said hello. Will you say hello? Will you say hello? Oh. I talked about The Matrix and how I like that movie and all the things I said about it. Which leads me to the next thing I want to talk about. The first time I ever went to a psych hospital, it's a designated hospital for mental illness, people suffering from crisis, basically. The first time I ever had to go to a place like that, it was on the first night, I believe, that we watched The Matrix. And I've seen that movie before. It just happened to be on like regular television. It happened in 2010 when I went. So that's, 10, 11 years after the movie came out. So I've seen it several times. But in this scenario, it was a different feeling. Every patient that was not passed out in their bed that I'm aware of was heavily interested in it, in that film, watching it. And in the state of mind that I was in, I felt like that movie was about me. The one. I am the one. This is allegory of my life, because I'm waking up from the Matrix right now. I think a lot of us felt that way while we were watching it. And so anyway, besides that part, I got there early. My family had to take me to like a crisis center, which is similar to a mental hospital, but they couldn't get me in to stay there. So I waited there until they had a way to get me to the other mental hospital that I went to. And I got there like at 5 in the morning or something like that. So I tried to sleep, but I was on a manic phase that was giving me the most energy that I could imagine. And I think a lot of factors contributed to the mental breakdown that I had that led me to that. It was a lot of things. And I was in a bad situation in my life, working multiple jobs, trying to go to trade school, smoking weed, drinking alcohol, all of it. Trying to do too much. And I think it wasn't, because from my experience with the use of marijuana itself, I think that was one of the triggering things. Not being high on it, but the balance of your mental brain chemistry after you've stopped. There is a withdrawal period if you're become like a daily user of marijuana products, THC, that after you stop, it can become very, mentally unstable in your head. Besides the main physical things you may experience, such as insomnia, loss of appetite, there's this existentialness there, and I think that was part of it, the withdrawal from that, as well as every other thing that was contributing to that happening. I at one point thought I might have been the return of Jesus himself, or one of the last prophets in the Revelations or something like that, one of the two witnesses, that type of stuff. I was in my head with all these things, and I was doing some very strange things too in my beliefs. Like every weird thought that I had was like, that's a true thought. Or like every movie, like The Matrix we watched, was real. It was something true there. And I was in also some sort of weird state of interpreting everything as some sort of parable. And, if someone tried to ask me a favor, like, could you help me move a table? I would think, what does that mean? What is the deeper meaning and the philosophy and the spiritual meaning of that? No, it's just, hey, man, it's a big thing. I need help. What? I was trying to like explain everything in some sort of spiritual parable way and understanding of things. And it was very strange. My head was in a weird spot. And then I don't know if it, what is it? Why do we put all the people who have suffering mentally together? It seems like a bad idea, but I guess it's what we got to do. If you're suffering in mental illness so badly that you can't function in society, they got to put you in with all the other people in the same building and have people who are paid barely anything to make sure you don't hurt yourself or other people. And watch. What is the guy thinking that let us watch The Matrix and thought that was a good idea for mental patients to sit there and watch The Matrix? I guess he probably didn't give a crap because we're all like glued to the television set, like, wow. We're all mesmerized by The Matrix. And I was thinking in some strange thoughts about my own beliefs and abilities and who I was, and my identity, and I don't know. It was a crazy time. There was a moment where I was just sitting there while another patient was getting intake interviewed by one of the nurse people there, and then I talked to that guy later, and he had misinterpreted that situation to where he thought I was the nurse, but he forgot that I was not. He thought I was somebody else at this point, the way he described it, because I was just in my regular like clothes, gym shorts and a shirt or whatever it was, and he said the nurse was there and he was just wearing gym shorts, and I had changed it since then, so I don't know if I was like, wait a minute, I was there during that, I remember, and I was just offering my empathy at the moment to help. I don't know why. He was like, oh, telling his story of what happened to him, and I was trying to empathize with him as a bystander. And the other guys, the nurse guy was just trying to take the information and write it down so he could have it on the record or whatever. And so I guess my showing empathy to his situation, his story, made him think that I was the nurse. And then I realized some of these people are way more messed up than me. But then I was like, wait a minute, I don't know. I'm all over the place in my own head. I don't know what's going on. At one point, I thought that everybody was going to turn into animals. Or, no, that's not true. What's going to happen? We're on an alien ship right now, and we're being transported through space to a new planet. That's what's going on. That's what the real truth is. I kept trying to... I wanted to know everything and all the answers to the secrets of the universe, and I just try to grab onto any explanation of anything just anything, no matter how crazy it was. That's what the truth was at the moment. So they got me on medication and all this stuff, and it was not an easy road. That was the start of a 7-year period of off and on again mental breakdowns and depression and manic phases that... It's strange to me that it lasted 7 years back and forth and struggling with it. It was never as bad as the first time, but it took 7 years to really get fully through it. And I've always thought, since that period has ended, that it was similar to King Nebuchadnezzar in the Old Testament Bible, who thought his ego got so big that God cursed him to be like an animal of the field and live like a beast, or whatever happened to him. Like he was a crazy person, thought he was a cow or something like that. And it was for 7 years. And then he came back and it was like, I was so wrong for thinking that I was basically better than God or something, you know. I had a similar road in my own way, I suppose. But the night that we watched The Matrix, like, I don't know what other patients were doing, But I was hyped, man. I think I took the hat of the guy next to me in the bed and I put it on, and I thought, now the nurse attendees will think that I am that guy because I have his hat on. And I walked out, and I was thinking I'd get into some weird mischief. I didn't. I just went to the water fountain. I'm like, I need a drink. And I had the hat on, and then I went back. I don't know what I was thinking. But who knows what, I feel like that guy was taking advantage of the situation to put the Matrix on. I even made a sketch about it on my other channel, like a comedy sketch of watching the Matrix while being in a mental patient hospital. We are all like glued, and it was amazing. So let's say the Matrix, the first time I saw it was pretty awesome, but the time I saw it in the psych ward, that was probably the best experience. And you know what sucked? That the lights out, or bedtime cutoff, came right after Neo was killed. And before he came back to life. Like, we got to see him die, but we didn't get to see him come back to life. And that's when we had to cut it off. It was lights out time, go to bed. The end. And there was also, I was so far removed, like I was saying, where I was trying to interpret everything in some sort of parable interpretation of everything, that I don't know if I felt like at certain points I was not even speaking normally anymore. I was speaking in some sort of symbolic sign language that I understood what I was trying to say, but it came out different, and that they heard it differently. So it was almost like I had a different language of communication in my own mind. I was misinterpreting things, what people say, and I think I was not saying truly the words that I meant to say. I was using some sort of parable, I don't know, signal language or something. I don't know what it was. I was deep in my head. So pretty much after that, that's when everything kind of was snowballed into downhill. I was married at the time with my supposed alleged son, and we were convinced to file bankruptcy, and then she divorced me and left me for, I think, the real father, who then did the same thing to her that she did to me, kind of. The next times I had to go to the hospitals was for different reasons, and I started to actually like going there as a way to decompress my mind and get away from things that I had no control over myself to get away from, like a rehab from society, from the smartphone and the drugs and the alcohol and whatever it is that's messing with my head. I think a lot of people don't even understand how much, like, you could look at marijuana and say, yeah, well, of course, or drugs of alcohol. And you say, well, of course, you were overdoing that, and then you had a mental breakdown. Yeah, but there was other things going on. There was more to it than that. The things that you engage with in your mind, that's not a substance that you put in your body. Those things could wreck your mental state as well. That's why I'm trying to stay away from the news. And I knew that before. But something always happens big and it gets me sucked back into it. Like, I got to pay attention. I got to know what's happening. But why? And could you ever really know the real truth of what's happening? You can only know so much. And this is the official narrative based on the information that is allowed to come out. And unless you go into it yourself and research and listen to all the perspectives and do all this stuff, and why do you need to know? That's a whole mental breakdown. I think a lot of the things that happening in the world today, people are influenced by online social media and the news feed to make them think crazy stuff and want to do crazy things. All right. Well, hopefully this was a good episode. I don't know. Thanks for watching.
What do you get?
I don't think so.
When you cross a mentally ill loner with a society that abandons him.
Manic Matt
was like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?